Okay.
Hey, Dave.
Me?
Let's minimize this. Click this little thing on the far
Are you
right.
just number 9?
Let's say connect.
And how weird is that? I've been running so hard.
Close this TV.
Pick the hat up at the Vets in San Ynez at 5. Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you. I just had time to run home and fix it real quick. Hi. Oh, gosh.
It wasn't that short last time we saw you.
No, you know, when she came and cut it, she came to my house, which was really cool. She hasn't opened in her studio yet, but there was actually more hair on the floor than there was on my head. It was wonderful.
That is funny.
I told her I felt when I went to bed at night, I felt like a meatball with spaghetti just wrapped. I don't know how do you do that?
I put it up every night. Like I have it down during the day. But I put
Okay,
it up
just
at
click
night
here
'cause I
and
can't
You
sleep.
can't. How do you sleep?
Whatever's on this screen is on the TV.
Gosh.
okay.
Oh, just yeah.
Whatever's in this
have no
window
idea.
or on that
On
screen.
this screen, we're mirroring the screen itself.
Oh,
We could
okay.
set it up separately, so it
Okay.
could be its own screen, or we could mirror this one. We can do any of those, but
Okay.
from what we were talking about yesterday, we set it up to mirror this entire screen.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
But that's not what's going out over. That's not what's going out over the air.
No.
Okay, good.
No.
Then
This, only what's on Zoom is what's going out there.
Which
Gotcha.
is right now, that's what I'm,
Yes.
that's still what I'm putting out there.
Okay,
okay.
you want
But
to
if
pledge
for
tonight?
if for instance I moved this over, well, I guess I can't. But if I had another window open up and I moved it on top of this, it would show up here, but it wouldn't go out over the air. Okay.
Well,
Do you need something to drink?
it would, because,
I'll have just like water from the top.
No, it would not.
because it's not really in the camera.
Right.
The camera space. Because it just a little corner of it is.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Okay.
So, but like for example, yes, if this was sitting right here, the TV
And
would
there's
see it.
Mr.
You can see
Dave.
here. That's all you can see on the TV. So
Right.
most of the public can see.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
It's just a matter of
Just as long as this doesn't go out to the public. Yeah.
yeah, just to what's in the room.
Both the girls.
Yeah,
Just picture somebody standing right here. That's the best way to think of it.
Yeah.
Somebody standing, looking over your shoulder.
Okay. That's good. Perfect.
And then, it was over
Break.
here.
You got to join the
What
big
was?
kid table.
I'm excited.
Oh.
Really excited.
You should be.
Oh.
Told some of the public, I'll leave my mask
He
on. too
switched
until
it, so
I'm
now it's
speaking.
behind
So
this.
Okay,
That's
and
why mine's
okay.
on right
I have it open.
PowerPoint.
Huh?
So can we open it and drag it over to that side?
They were grumpy?
Okay.
Okay.
When you're ready, you would.
Life's too short to be grumpy.
I
I mean, I got grumpy at the last meeting, and I refuse to get grumpy tonight.
That's what's important.
You only need what?
This particular, the last.
I sometimes I think they'd rather see
Oh,
you.
okay. How did you turn it? How did you turn that to the TV? Share screen. And select the
Sorry, I
app.
asked her. I didn't ask you. Oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Dave, I should turn the
I'm good if I can
coffee
make it
pot on
work
for
real
him.
quick, and we just select this app then, and that's what goes out. Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore.
Now I feel better. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
I know, I saw that last time, it's awesome.
Thank
Linda's always
you.
thinking. Keep filling it up with water.
Chamber, library.
What's that?
No worries.
This is fine.
Okay.
Well, I think you go on Zoom first and then turn it.
We don't have to do Zoom today. This is just for the agenda. They have Zoom. No, no. I just want to make sure that this doesn't randomly chirp or tweet or any other such noise. Because I have a very annoying ringtone for my kids, and I do not
From your
want them to hear it.
mailbox.
Could do away with this one. Yeah, I can do it on this, because I can, this one is not touchscreen.
Select that one, the one that says slideshow.
Not having to have it right in your face.
I was going to ask you the same thing. The books is a good catch because I pulled them.
Last page on the screen.
Everyone should have a layer, but it could be like a long sleeve. I don't think we'll need a sweater
If you just need
because we'll be coming home late from the park. So thanks. Bye.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I saw his parents yesterday, to read.
Um, their backpacks are just for what they're carrying into the park. So if you could put their layer in that,
Yeah, that's.
you should have them carry their spare clothes around in case we did a water ride or if we just like stay wet.
It sounds almost like me, but it's not.
Look at that. So I kept getting that, hello, which I know is when they're speaking, because I actually read it.
I was wondering why the noise was coming from. It didn't occur to me that somebody out there.
So Judith Dill is talking on item, I have two for item 8.
So, I think we've
There's only
closed
two?
the public comments.
Yeah,
on
that's what I
8.
thought.
Maybe they can speak under public comments?
They could speak under public comment, yeah.
Thank you. I will let them know that. In fact, except I do have a mask. Are we almost there?
What's that?
It's 6 o'clock.
Oh, it is.
A couple more minutes?
It's up to you, whenever, we've got
Looks
everybody
like
here.
he's-
Oh, we're waiting on Rose, or Rose and Victor, that's right.
Okay.
The guy deliver the dinner yet?
Some scones. Some sweet stuff.
To order, if I could get Councilmember Lewis to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. If I could get roll call, Linda.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Here.
Councilmember King.
Here.
Councilmember Lewis. Here. Vice Mayor Sanchez.
Here.
And Mayor Sarah.
Here. Thank you. Do we have any reordering of the agenda tonight?
Madam Mayor, no reordering this evening.
All righty. And we move on to public comments now. I was just telling the audience, at our last meeting, we took quite a bit of public comment on the Williamson house and what ideas to put into it. We closed public comment. We're continuing that to tonight. So public comment for that period is over. That does not mean you cannot speak during public comment. So agenda item for the Williamson House, we are not taking public comment or taking comment on that item, but you can speak during public comment. So I did have two speakers. First one is David Schwartz. Step on up and give us your 3 minutes of brilliant ideas.
Right. David Schwartz, I'm a Buellton resident, and I'm excited about the house and the barn, especially the house for meeting rooms. We have no place in Buellton where you can meet, a small group, and that would be just ideal. The library in Santa Barbara has something. Then you also have the ability to do like what we used to call the Fijian suites, where you can rent a room for an hour a day, a meeting, an office, and there's space for that too. Then my other passion is making jewelry, and you have a wonderful place to not only exhibit the craft, but to actually work on it. And you could rent out the barn for some of the artisans we have in town. And I know there's so many of them, because I took my classes in Santa Barbara, and I still have a lot of classmates that are up here that make jewelry, pottery. I just think it's a wonderful opportunity. And I'm sort of pushing my enthusiasm. I think you need to move on. You need to put a committee together and need to get going on it, implement. If you're going to move the library, that's great. Kids need that. They need a place to study. They need a place to sit and read. You can do that in Santa Barbara. I grew up in a town where the library was our social get-together. That was Glendora. I mean, that's where, from grammar school through high school, if you wanted to meet someone, you'd be at the library. So I would urge you to put together a committee now and implement the use of the two buildings.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Judith Dale?
Thank you, and I don't blame you for closing public comment on this. You 33 letters, and I wrote to each of you. So you certainly know my feelings. A difficult decision. I mean, I hope you will do what you feel is best for the public good of Buellton, and best wishes with your decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kathy, you've got it down under public comment? Or did you want to speak on the Visitors Bureau? No, I just had a quick public comment. Please step up, Kathy Vreeland.
And then I figured I'd lend myself for questions if you have during that conversation.
Thank you.
I just wanted a couple quick things on our side here. I know we haven't seen a lot of you during all of this, so now that we're in person, I wanted to formally introduce Jennifer Molodzik. She's our new team member at the Visitors Bureau and Chamber. If you haven't had a chance to meet her, she took Jody's position last summer. So welcome her to our team. And then also just to tell you about our Shop Local program. If you haven't seen it around Facebook or online, we're going to be kicking it off again on July 1st. What we're doing is basically if you shop, we want you to shop in Buellton. Of course, it's to help our economy out after coming out of COVID and recovering. But bring your receipts into the Visitors Bureau. It has to be $100 or more spent at any Buellton business, and we'll verify your receipts. And then what we've done is gone around and purchased $100 worth of gift cards at all of our Buellton restaurants, so in $25 increments. So we have a big raffle drum there that you come in, show your receipts to us, and we verify that it was spent in Buellton, and you get to draw a gift card of $25 to a local restaurant. So just trying to help everybody out and encourage shopping local. So that will start July 1. Again, we did one phase, and it was like a week and a half, so they go quick once people get wind of it. So anyhow, just giving you the heads up on that. So keep your receipts, and we'll be ramping that up next week.
Wonderful.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment before I close it? Public comment, sir? Okay. Number 9. Okay, so I'm closing public comment. We're moving on to our consent calendar. We've got 6 items tonight on the consent calendar. Minutes of June 10th, 2021, regular city council meeting. List of claims to be approved and ratified for payment to date for fiscal year 2020, 2021. The monthly treasurer's report, May 31st, 2021. Resolution number 21-11, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, establishing an appropriation limit for fiscal year 21-22. Consideration of amended contract with Wallace Group for fats, oils, grease, which is FOG, Sanitary Sewer Management Plant, the SSMP, and Industrial Discharge, ID, programs implementation. And our last item is consideration of amended contract with Autosys LLC for SCADA instrumentation, electrical technician services. Any questions for staff?
Nope, move for approval.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Linda?
Okay, Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Lewis. Aye. Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sanchez.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you. Do we have any presentations tonight?
No presentations this evening.
Thank you very much. We move on to our public hearings. This is agenda item number 7, the amended resolution number 20-25, amended resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, finding and determining that the public interest, convenience, and necessity require the acquisition of property interests for public purposes. Is that Mr. Murphy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to lay some of the legal groundwork for this. My colleague Nora Wetzel is on Zoom if there are any specific legal questions about the eminent domain aspect of this, but I did want to lay some of the groundwork before Rose goes into the staff report. The city did pass Resolution of Necessity 20-25 on October 8th. And it's important to remember in resolutions of necessity what exactly you're being asked to find. The first main finding is that the public interest, convenience, and necessity require the proposed project, which is to say, in this case, the street widening project. So you're being asked to say that, yes, the public interest, convenience, and necessity require the McMurray widening project. Second, you're being asked to say that the project is planned and located in a manner most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury. Now, we know that the taking of this property will have some private injury, so you're not being asked to find that the taking of this property is most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury, but that the overall planning of the project is planned and located that way. You made both of those findings last time. The third aspect is that the taking of the property interest is necessary for the proposed project. As Ms. Hess will explain, at your previous meeting last October, you found that actually the taking of a greater amount of property interest was necessary. Through some negotiations with the property owner and the tenant, the city has refined the project and is actually, as Ms. Hess will explain, looking to take less than you previously had authorized. Fourth, the statutory offer to purchase was made. Fifth, the necessary notice of hearing on tonight's meeting has been made. And sixth, that you've complied with the California Environmental Quality Act. So those are kind of the ground rules of what we're doing here in terms of the findings and what you're being asked to make. Ms. Hess will give you some details on what we're doing, and in particular tonight give you details on the changes and the sort of decrease in what you'd be authorizing us to do. Ms. Wetzel would be able to give any more detailed specifics about the law if necessary. And then I just want to say it's always our hope that these things can be resolved without litigation. We never want to have to file the lawsuit, but sometimes filing the lawsuit, taking the sort of first step in the lawsuit, arranges things or sets them up so you can move forward with the project and then continue discussions and negotiations about price. And that brings me to my final point, at which point I'll put my mask back on, which is that we're not here tonight to talk about price. We're not here to talk about details. That's something for the negotiation process. The property owner and the tenant both have submitted letters stating their position. Those letters are appropriate for the record. If they raise questions in any of your minds, Ms. Hess and Ms. Wetzel can answer those. Otherwise, those are good for the record and will be part of the negotiation and potentially the litigation process. With that, I turn it over to Ms. Hess.
Thank you very much. Rose?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Member City Council. As our city attorney mentioned, the city council has previously adopted the resolution of necessity number 20-25 in October of 2020. Thereafter, the city was contacted by Thrifty Oil and its tenants Tesoro, who requested formally to reduce the size of the temporary construction easement as the council had originally approved. So although discussions and negotiations are ongoing, after this particular point of discussion, we did look at the area of construction, remove the requirements along the northern property of removing the wall that's along Thrifty's north property line, and that by doing so would remove that big block of the temporary construction easement that we were originally requesting. So if you look at the exhibit that's on the screen before you, at the middle of the screen, there's a big gray box. That area used to be highlighted green that denoted the area of the temporary construction easement that we were originally requesting. So with the removal of that portion of the project, we are no longer in need of that area for a temporary construction easement. So the only area that we are now looking at for a temporary construction easement is the area that's highlighted green and underneath the yellow area along the along the westerly portion of the gasoline station site. So that is the revised area. That is part of the amended resolution of necessity. So let me see. So upon the reduction of the TCE, staff also authorized an updated appraisal that was dated April 12th, 2021, and that reduced TCE and updated appraisal was also sent to Thrifty Oil and Tesoro in a revised offer letter. And that was sent to them on April 14th and also provided as one of the attachments into the staff report. So since then, the city has received 2 comment letters, one from Mr. Gravel representing Tesoro and another from Mr. Brogan representing Thrifty Oil, and they've been distributed to council and entered into record. We have reviewed the comments and discussed a few of them in an updated amended resolution of necessity that has been printed and brought before you tonight to address some of their comments. So namely, an increase of prior notification prior to the commencement of the temporary construction easement, a change from 14 days to 30 days. That's been updated in the proposed amended resolution necessity. We had the addition of the word diesel to the gasoline pump descriptions, and also included the approval with this resolution for temporary gas pricing signage, so that eliminates additional steps for the project and for the property owners at a future time. In other comments noted will be and as more appropriately addressed through inclusion through the project plans and specification. And those items are such as the maintenance of driveway access during construction on McMurray Road and portion on Highway 246, and fencing requirements, and so on. So those are not included into the amended resolution necessity because those are more appropriately addressed during the construction documents. So with that, staff is recommending that the council approve the amended resolution number 20-25, finding and determining that the public interests, convenience, and necessity require the acquisition of property interests for the public purposes, and authorize the city attorney and the city manager to take action and execute all the documents necessary for the acquisition per the latest update of the resolution, amended resolution of necessity. With that, if you have additional questions, we're available to answer.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any questions for staff? No questions? I had a quick one. Or did you have a question? No. Okay. How long have we been working on this?
Since 8 o'clock.
for quite some time, over a decade, I would say.
I know when I came on board and Dave came on board, it was an issue back then. So hopefully, and the company's been sold a couple times.
There's different layers of property owners. I think different leases may have changed.
Okay. I appreciate that it's, that we've actually cut down on the size, you know. I'm not a big eminent domain person. You know, if we can work with property owners, that's the best way to do it. But boy, we've sure been working with them. So, okay. No questions? Then I open it up for public comment. I don't see any speakers on this item. I don't.
Actually,
Oh, do we have
someone on
somebody?
Zoom, yes.
Okay, Linda, do you know who? Couple of speakers?
Sir, would you like to state your name here and we'll have you speak?
sure.
Douglas?
Yes, my name is Doug Gordell. I'm an attorney for TRMC Retail LLC.
Please, go ahead.
Thank you. And I understand I have 3 minutes. Thank you for the opportunity to address this. The gist of what your council previously told you was, in essence, you previously approved this, and because this involves a smaller TC area, you should just rubber stamp this. I would argue that you need to look at this again, because there are several concerns and problems that have, well, the elimination of the 35-foot TC area is certainly welcome. It did not address all the concerns. For example, there is a 15-foot temporary construction easement, 15-foot width that goes along McMurray Road. As far as I have seen, there has been no explanation in the packet or any of the materials for why 15 feet as opposed to a much smaller area is needed, particularly around the diesel pumps. Remember, the taking needs to be both reasonable and necessary. So it's not a matter of just saying, you know, we need this property so we get as much as we want. There needs to be a finding that 15 feet as opposed to a much smaller width is necessary. Also, along Highway 246, the TC area extends 45 feet from the intersection. Again, I'm not aware of any discussion tonight or in the packet explaining why it needs to be 45 feet. And it's important because it impacts the driveway and access. There's been no discussion for why 12 months is needed as opposed to a much shorter duration of, say, 6 months. As I understand it, the work is only required to take 6 months. So in essence, the proposed resolution of necessity seeks a temporary taking that's twice as long as the actual construction work. There's been no discussion about, among other things, prohibiting the concurrent closure of the driveway along McMurray Road and State Highway 246. I would encourage the council members to consider the scope of the proposed taking. We do believe it is not reasonable nor necessary in many aspects. I see I'm up to 2 minutes and 50 seconds, so I'll end it with that unless anyone has any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Before our next speaker, Rose, do you want to address any of those concerns?
Yes, ma'am. Try to re-angle my microphone here. Let me see.
You got a fancy one.
So as far as the length of the duration of the TCE, the city has requested a period of 12 months, despite that the construction is anticipated to take 6 months. That's our best guess as far as the duration of construction activities for continuous construction work. But there could be potential delays based on time for materials to arrive. So it's the duration of the entire project. So that's not necessarily to say if the construction takes 6 months or less, that the TCE continues to be open and obligated. When construction is completed, the TCE also sunsets. So it's not necessarily, a 12-month strong hold period. But that 12-month period in the resolution of necessity does give us the flexibility to work with the contractor for other delays or other issues that may arise during construction to keep our schedule flexible. And as far as the width of the 15 feet, we need to be able to maneuver vehicles and construction equipment on site. Not all the work can be done from McMurray. We do have to go along on site and be able to maneuver vehicles. So the 15 feet we feel would be the smallest adequate width to be able to provide vehicles and equipment to maneuver on site. And we do also, that construction easement does need to wrap around to Highway 246 because we are reducing driveway width. It's their westmost driveway apron on Highway 246 that would be reduced as part of the take as well. And that area is needed in order to accommodate the right-of-way improvements, the ADA improvements, pedestrian improvements that's needed as we shift the whole right-of-way and sidewalk over to the east.
The eastern driveway will remain open.
The eastern driveway will remain open through on Highway 246 at all times.
Okay.
How much are we reducing the west driveway?
Let me see if I can pull up a map. Just waiting for my file to open up.
While you're waiting, can I just clarify that the removal of that portion towards the back removes the restriction on the diesel pumps? Am I correct? Or the being unable to access the diesel pumps by removing that back portion, we can now access them. Is that accurate?
Well, the removal of the TCE along the north end didn't impact, it didn't cover over the diesel pump area. But it would just increase the area where construction activities would occur. So no construction activities would therefore occur along the north side.
Correct, but I think your point is well made, Councilmember, that in terms of access to the pumps, the ability of cars to circulate through the site, that yes, by not having that TCE, we're increasing that access. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sanchez, to answer your question, I don't have, the plans aren't loading in my screen right now, but I believe the width of the driveway is being reduced like 6 to 8 feet.
Righty, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Councilman King?
Public, or you're still on us? We're still.
I'm still on public comment. I'm just, I was addressing the concerns that the public, that our speaker had. So I'll go on to our next public speaker.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Brogan for Thrifty Oil Company. I think when I first wrote my letter on this site, I had brown hair. Mr. Gravel and I deal with eminent domain stuff all the time. Caltrans traditionally takes property and does widenings with a 5-foot TCE, sometimes a 3-foot TCE. And the reason it's important is because if you give a contractor 15 feet, they all of a sudden take it all up with staging, porta potties, they put all their stuff there. And frankly, I think it's unfair to the property owner and particularly to DeSoro to have trucks moving around if they're not actually engaged in actual construction. And if they're actually engaged in construction, they should be widening the road, not parking stuff. So I'm trying to be blunt here, but 15 feet is way too wide, even under Caltrans's scenarios. Secondly, the impact to the diesel terminals remain, if you take a look at it, if a truck or a big RV comes in there, with a TCE in place, it's going to be very difficult to use that diesel facility. So I would urge the council to really consider whether or not they really need 15 feet. And in fact, whether they're burdening, instead of taking the burden off the road, they're putting the burden on the service station. And I join in Mr. Gravel's comments. Thank you very much. Under 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, there's not much road on McMurray to play with, unfortunately.
Was there talk of using the going north in the lanes as more of a staging area, or are we going to use some of the staging area in another lot?
The staging area has not been determined. That's an activity that we discuss with the contractor at the time of construction. But again, this is an item that we can stipulate in the plan and specification that there shall be no staging on site.
Right, but then he had a good point. If you're going to drive and you need a truck and you've got your backhoes dumping, you need your 15 feet. But to have it, to take it away from them full time, I don't think. I think that would be. Again,
during construction activities, the vehicles and equipment are going to be active wherever they're going to be active. If there's no construction activities, then there won't be anything that would be impeding use of the areas.
Right, but that won't be blocked off if they're not using it, right? So
that's correct.
In the evening, it'll be fully open, or if they're not working that day for some reason, it'll be fully open.
Correct. Yeah,
So
we stipulate in the plans and specification that the site's to be buttoned up to the extent practicable for safety, et cetera, by the end of the day.
During construction as necessary, we would need to do that, but even part of the day, we wouldn't need it. You know what I mean? I would like to have a mobile line, like you said. You wouldn't have to have a big piece taken away from their business,
right?
If you're not using it. But
right. If there's there's active construction going on, they're going to secure the area to make it safe for the construction activities and people. But
since we get the gas tax dollars from this station, it's in our best interest to keep it as free moving as we can, I would imagine. So, all righty. Any other public comment? I am closing public comment, bringing it back to council for discussion and possible action.
Madam Mayor, I have some questions. I think that I can't remember, Douglas, what your last name was, but he specifically, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is that 45 feet on the south side of this property. It goes from, apparently, if you can go back to your explosion. Yeah, see the green there, that 45 feet?
You really don't see it. That was on 246. He was talking about 45 feet from the center of 246.
Right. What is that specifically for?
So we are doing driveway improvements in that area.
So you also want a TCE for that?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I do have a comment that.
Sure. We are at comment stage.
Well, I would not like to have people working on this and you say we have like a floating line that we move it around during the day or whatever. Well, first thing that comes to my mind is somebody parks a car there because you moved it and then they come back and, hey, who parked this car here? We need to get this truck in to start moving some of this concrete out of here. Go into the gas station, ask the person behind the counter. I don't know. I mean, I think that if you are during your construction hours, that should be constantly within that boundary, as no other occupants or vehicles should be within that area. Otherwise, that could hold your project up for, till we get Oliveras to get a tow truck over there and tow that car away. So as far as that goes, I think that it should probably stay constantly closed down all day. And also looking about, there was the mention about that north end where we took all that away. I mean, I had a 22-foot long diesel truck with a fifth wheel on that was 23 feet long. And if I can't drive around the back of that gas station to get to that pump, I shouldn't be driving that truck.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Can I ask a question in regards to exactly what we're approving here? So what we're approving here is the resolution to continue forward with the process, not the nitty-gritty as to whether or not we will or will not have a mobile fence, or whether or not. So it is, we are not going into those details, and by approving the resolution tonight, we're not limiting any of that type of negotiation. We are literally just saying we're moving forward, we will be doing this, and then we will work out the specifics and the details with the landowner, correct?
Correct. And as Ms. Hess and Mr. Sozio and Ms. Wetzel have talked about, those things are appropriate as the city hires the contractor to say, this will reduce the impact on the business. And we, of course, want to reduce the impact. The less impact on the business, the less the city is taking from the business. So yes, but those are all aspects that are appropriate for the contract phase, not for this taking phase.
I just wanted, that was a subject that came up with him, that's why we made a comment on it, but
And it's good for you all to understand it and to talk it through. It's absolutely appropriate to understand it and ask the questions about it, but we can't really make the decisions on it tonight because it's not before us.
Yeah. Moving forward is a big decision, though. I mean, we've been working on it for a while. Any comments?
No, ma'am.
Councilman? All righty. And the council wants to make a motion?
You should go ahead.
I'll motion to approve the amended resolution number 2025.
And I,
To read the whole thing?
No, it's fine the way it is.
and I will second that.
As per the updated,
As per the,
As per the updated amended resolution before us.
thank you, very good. Roll call?
Okay, Councilmember Lewis.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Sanchez.
aye.
All righty, thank you very much. Moving on to council member comments/items. I'm going to start at my far right. Councilman Andrusik, any comments, any items coming up,
ma'am.
anything? No? Vice?
Lot of new faces and new ideas, and it's encouraging.
It's a good thing. Vice Mayor, comments, items?
I want to thank Linda for putting together, we're going to go to a conference in Sacramento, and that's always good. I think that's good for everybody. And we have some vehicles for the 4th of July parade, and thanks Scott for getting, I'm glad we got invited to come to Solvang for the 4th of July parade, and so that's something fun to look forward to.
It's only for an hour, though, isn't it? I don't have any control over how long it lasts.
Our coaches will turn into pumpkins, huh? Councilmember Lewis, comments, items? Councilman King?
Just to parrot John, that we are all invited to the 4th of July parade that's going to be on Solvang, so I'd like to see some Buelltonites over there waving flags and cheering for us. Barring any golf tournaments that might turn out, I think that all of us will be there.
Bring them with you.
Oh, Councilman King. And I'd like to thank Vice Mayor Sanchez for getting the Mokes. Mokes. We'll be driving the Mokes down Mission Drive, and our city manager for getting us into the parade. I just wanted to, tomorrow night is our first movie in the park, The Goonies at Oak Park, and I don't know, is it?
7:30.
7:30. So bring your blanket and come, there's no charge for the movie, just come bring your kids and enjoy. All righty, moving on to written communications. None?
We have no written communications this evening.
Committee reports. Any committee reports?
Madam Mayor, CCWA met today. I think the biggest, I'm trying to get a succinct comment to probably describe, we are running out of water. DWR predicts very low inventory, zero allocation in 2022. We've had the allocations lowered and then suspended. DWR is Department of Water Resources. And that resource, I think they're trying to pull back the control of it, but people have gotten used to having water. So
there's probably going to be some water wars going on. I think CCWA is approaching it well. We had a good meeting today. But they, different organizations, some cities out of our territory are starting to sell their water, and it doesn't make sense to me, because if we're running out of water, why would you get rid of your water? But hopefully we're being more judicious about that.
All right. Thank you. Any other?
I had a committee meeting with the Visitors Bureau.
Okay.
And it was a good meeting. We got to meet in person, and first time that I got to go to the meeting, and it was nice. And I think Kathy will fill in on the rest of the things. But it was a good meeting.
All righty. Thank you. I had SBCAG and APCD last week. SBCAG, we had Gus Curry from Sacramento talk about the governor's bill and what it could possibly mean, that cities may see some extra money. They're talking about helping with rivers and trails, and that may come to our valley, to Buellton. Hopefully, we're working on getting the river trail from Bilton to Solvang. And APCD met, and one of the questions is about one of our agenda items about the CCA. So there were concerns from supervisors and other different city members about what's going on there, but we'll talk about that on that agenda item. So about the illegal diesel engines.
Oh, right.
So that's another item. So moving on to business items. Agenda item number 8, decision on future use of main residence building at 202 Dairyland Road, the Williamson property. City Manager Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As you'll recall, at the last City Council meeting, there were discussions held on potential uses for the main residence at the Williamson property. The City Council took a large amount of public input at that meeting, closed the public comment period for that particular item, and continued it to allow any interested council members to go and take a tour of the house. A couple of council members did visit the home one final time, and now we're back this evening, and the purpose of this item on the agenda is to allow the City Council any further discussion and potentially to make a decision regarding potential future uses. At this time, I would just like to turn this back over to the City Council for discussion and recommend that you discuss this amongst yourselves and give staff any direction you feel appropriate.
First of all, any questions for Mr. Wolf?
I have one regarding the preschool. From what I understand, the amount that they are able or offering for rent could come up as an issue. If we were to make a decision regarding them as a tenant, is that something that could be worked out, or is that something that has to be done at face value?
Any decision made by the City Council this evening would be simply a preliminary direction to staff to engage in discussions with a particular potential operator. That sort of terms and price type discussion would take place through negotiations that would come after the fact.
Were you able to contact them? That was my question too, and let them know that we are required as a city to take.
I did. I asked based on the City Council's discussion at the last meeting, I did contact the preschool board. I received a letter back in return, which if I didn't get it to you, I apologize. Essentially, the responses from that letter were that the first question was, were you able to pay more rent? And they said at this time they could not commit to paying more than the amount of rent that they offered in their proposal. The second question was, would you be interested in occupying a portion of the home in the event that the City Council offered you less than the full square footage of the house with some outdoor area to fence? The response from the preschool board at this time is no, in order to meet the requirements that they have in terms of expanding their current student load or child load, they would need that additional square footage, the entire square footage of the house. So that was the latest that came from the board regarding those two issues.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, I just want to support what Scott said. In general, the city would need to get fair market value. There are ways to structure a contract with an entity like this, as long as the city gets to fair market value in a reasonable period of time. There are ways to do some offsets, perhaps dealing with upfront costs with other things. We will, if the council gives me direction to, and gives Scott direction to move forward with the preschool, we will negotiate with them. We will look at what all of our options are within the law to structure a contract that would be, would protect the city, would not get us in trouble, while at the same time meeting your direction. So if that's what direction you give me, I'll do my best to make it work for you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
What was the figure for that? For the rent, what was the offer?
The offer from the preschool was $2,000 per month.
Yeah,
And that included
that's everything.
the
on the house.
resident,
Yeah.
the four
residents and-
acres.
And
No,
part
it
of-
was simply for the house plus an area outside the
Apron.
house to fence
Part of
in
the
for
grass.
for a private playground area.
Yeah. Okay, comments? I'm not ready for a motion yet. We have a long list if we want to work through it. I had a call today from Jerry Dominguez, who is she's our Special Olympic advocate and ADA advocate, and she really wants to see the Historical Society Museum placed on the property. Whether that's in the barn or in the house, she just, right now it's the second floor of Anderson's Pea Soup, and there's no elevator, and it's really not compliant, and it needs to be put in a place where everybody can see it. I was thinking the barn would be a great place for it, but that's something to consider. That was what she called me about today. I've had another phone call regarding using the library in part of the house and using part of the house as renting out rooms for meetings, for groups, whether that's however we change it. We had one comment about putting the library in the garage, and the garage is big. The library, you sent out a note that the library was 1,800 square feet currently.
About 1,900 square feet
1,900 currently. So the garage is not the same.
It's about half that.
And in order to put a library or any type of a business would take a lot of work, yeah, to make it look nice. I'm not sure that the city wants to spend a bunch of money right now in retrofit. I was thinking that the library could go in part of the house and the other part could be rented out, to be decided how. The city manager promised he'd give us maps of the house so we could play kindergarten and first graders and doodle and fix it just the way we like it and come back. But I really would like to move forward tonight with just a general idea of what we want to do with that. So, any other ideas?
I have two comments.
Good.
One is that I feel very strongly about having a civic center, I think is what we're kind of calling it. Basically all the government area buildings in one central location and moving that to Avenue of the Flags, I believe is where we were looking at putting that, or somewhere, a central location where we have the post office, the library, city hall, those types of things. And I feel like it's maybe counterproductive for a number of reasons to move the library to the home and then retrofit the home in whatever way to make the library fit, only to have ultimate plans of moving the library again. I think it's counterproductive for the, labor to move it, as well as any costs that it would take to get the library there, if that really is our end goal. And I'm not sure if the city council has really discussed that or made that an end goal, but I really like that idea of having a central location. And then the idea of the preschool, this community doesn't have a lot of options for their families with young kids. They don't have a lot of options for daycare and for, working families, where most of our families here are two-parent working families. So everybody's working outside the home, and daycare is a huge issue. And I think that it would be really nice for the city to try to help in whatever legal way we can facilitate additional services that increase the, what's it called? Not the cost of living, but increase the standard quality of living. And I think having daycare and offering it and having it available to a higher number of residents increases their standard of living here. And it's not something that we often have the ability to do. So I think that it is a worthwhile cause to consider if it's something that we can do without putting ourselves in it.
And the neighborhood, you think that would fit in with the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, for personally, my daughter right now goes to a daycare in San Ynez, and the woman is absolutely stellar, amazing. She has anywhere between like 5 to 30 kids, depending on the day, whether it's in school or out of school. She has several people helping her. It's out of her home in a quiet residential area in San Ynez, and the parents trickle in, drop their kids off, they trickle in, pick them up, and I don't see the impact. Like, I rarely see more than 1 or 2 parents at the same time dropping off and picking up. So I don't know how dramatically different Zaka's setup is, but I can't imagine parents on their way to and from work being that much of an impact, more so than parents taking their kids to the park, or, people coming to and from their own homes and their own residences in the daytime.
Okay. Councilman Andriese?
As we grew up, our family was a military family, so we would move across the country. And nurseries were the lifeblood of rearing your family. The husband, the military member would be assigned, transferred, TDY, up to a year. We went a year, my dad was in Alaska, or Thule, Greenland, for a year. And he came home for 2 days, halfway through that year. And it really awakens you that, my goodness, I thought we were all family here, but the military came first. And I think that's been the life sequence for many families in the generation I'm in now. Maybe we're through that, and maybe there'll be a new paradigm that everybody can say, oh, this is a better system. I liked the nursery school, and then preschool kind of evolved from that. John, I think, might have been around it a little. I think that we want to protect, and I think the citizens want us to have a definable goal or operating sphere. And we don't have that, and I was going to ask that we try to find, have the community and the professionals who teach people how to raise children give us, what are we missing? Is there a better paradigm to make families grow in an area? We've been in Buellton since 1960. It's been a very nice, I think we always had control of it. You don't want to just hear that you have to do this and you have to do that. There's been a structure put together and you have to blah, blah, blah. We've been pretty freewheeling. It's a good life here, and I would not want to be accused of being part of destroying the ability for families to grow in whatever direction they want to. Look at the dirt bikes and all of those things. We rode bikes. That's all we did. Now they get in the dirt and they head up in the mountains and jump up and down. I can't. I think they're very fortunate they haven't broken more bones than they have.
Very, very lucky.
But that's I think where I'm coming from, that I would like to hear, I would like some sort of a, we had our, what did we call the meetings that we had, the get-togethers? We had them over in the,
Oh, at the barn?
no, it's not even a workshop. What's the, I'm missing my words. Kathy maybe knows. It was, I think the Chambers sponsored it.
The mixers?
I'm sorry, visioning. It was the visioning. And maybe I would like us to, before we bust out and barbed wire around the idea, and nobody can change it because it's already been decided, that the community really look at some form of visioning to make this. We need to hear from people that have one child, people have 10, 12 children. What do you want to see in this community? Otherwise, we drive them out of this community.
Okay.
So I would hope that before we get into who's going to move into the house and who's going to get that we design a need first and then create a community accepted need, because it is the community's asset. The city
does
bought it
belong to
and they
the
made
city.
it, and we have the ability. And I really think that we need to seek fair market value for us, being fair market value, the best return on the investment. And I'm amazed, nobody seems to be upset we spent $2 million. But we could very well spend $2 or $4 million more and regret it.
Thank you, sir.
So I think we're pushing this, we own the house. I'd certainly rather rent it out than to give title to it to someone else, or just say, this is, okay, you can have the house. I think it's a little pushy.
Got it. Councilman King?
Yeah. For starters, the preschool, I think, would be you could probably get a little creative, but I think it'd be a hard row to hoe. At this particular juncture, they're saying we can only give you $2,000 and we need the whole house. Well, it's pretty hard math right there. When you look at rentals in the city of Buellton now, you're talking about a size that house with that much yard, probably is going to go for $4,000, $4,500. So they're $2,500 short already. And they wanted a 30-year contract. So, like I said, good thing at doing the math on that. So Scott and I went to the house and we took a look around. And the first time I went through the house, I just kind of did the 50-cent tour. This time I went back with a critical look at it. And if you look at the north side of that house, which is the back rooms, there's bathrooms back in there. There is a garage, which is not in normally, I don't know if they did this originally, but not normally within the square footage of a house. Garage is not counted. So taking a look at that, I said, look, the front half of this house is party house. It's got a kitchen, it's got fireplace, it's got the master bedroom, excuse me, it's got the master bathroom, it's got a tub, it's got showers, it's got everything. So if you take a look at that half of the house, the south half of the house, that is absolutely perfect house, and the Williamsons lived in it, so they didn't let them use it before, but that is perfect for people to have a wedding, gathering place, the brides, the grooms, everybody gets ready in the front. There's the kitchen, they can stock food in there, they can make food if they want to. So the front half of that house is definitely wedding house. The back half of the house basically is bedrooms and a garage. So that square footage, if you divide it and include the garage, is way more than what you have right next door here. I mean, not to mention the fact that you could put copy machines and laptops and tables and chairs and whatever you want in the garage. Doesn't necessarily have to be the interior of the house. So if you have a consideration of, the computers and copiers or whatever they want to do back there, that, for lack of a better word, north side of that house would be suitable to move this library over there and vacate this building. Scott and I looked, it wouldn't really take major, really construction or cost or whatever the thing is. You could lock the doors between the two halves of the house and put a library on there, no entrance, whatever. So libraries, there's a side door right by the garage that you could use as your main entrance for the library, and the other half of the house would be locked off, and you could rent that house out on as-is basis for weddings. And you can look out the back window, there's a huge grass area where you just put your tables and your chairs and whatever else that you get married in there. And then, I can't talk about this because it's on the agenda, but there's someplace else that you could have reception. So that's where I'm coming from. I think you could serve the citizens with library on one half, and then you could generate at least enough money on the other half to pay for the maintenance of the grass and the trees and whatever else. So that's where I'm at.
Could be doable. Vice Mayor Sanchez.
That was
Your turn.
a lot of what I was thinking when we walked through too. And as far as the garage, if you put a glass garage door on there, it would be, it would look bigger, it would be easy it would be lit, it would be everything you need. Just the garage doors, if you change them to glass doors, you'd have a big, beautiful room.
A wall with French doors.
Well, yeah, whatever you needed to do, and then you could.
Now we're getting fancy.
Hey, I've thought of that too.
And then, well, the other thing is, any little door or side door with a patio and some pavers, you could have all the reading room you want, you could have meetings outside, you could have, there's places like if you go to the hospital, you have a little open area with tables and stuff and, a little fountain, and that's, you could have a beautiful part of a reading room or whatever. If it's night, you're not gonna go out there. If it's cold and rainy, you're gonna have to be confined. But there's many times you could just enjoy, if you just made that, like you said, the north side of the property splittable, and during the day, we could easily, with the door open, you can go in the living room and read, if that was the case, as long as the nucleus of the library was minimized, then the other parts of it could be maximized with light and windows on even there and stuff. And then we would have the rest of the house for whatever, like meeting rooms, or rent a place for meal or whatever. You could have receptions there. You could have conference room part. Whatever comes up, the rec department could use it for whatever, in conjunction with whatever we come up with the barn and all that. It could all be worked together. But I'm just saying that if we minimize the nucleus of the library, we could open up other parts to be beautiful and a nice place to be. Even a covered patio on one side.
So are you saying, like, if you came in the front door, that first room to the right would be walled in? It would be walled, and then that would be the library section going out through the garage?
Well, I don't think you necessarily have to wall that off. I mean, Scott and I, there's kind of a division, a natural division in there anyways, that the doors lead into the front or north half of the house. You just put deadbolts on them, and you keep half of the house for a rental use. And there was a mention about we don't have any meeting rooms. There are rooms in the south side of that house that are big enough where you could put board tables in there. You could have meetings. You could have, we could set up something similar to this where they could, you could have meeting rooms. This is like Buellton's in between North County, South County. So a lot of times there's meetings that people have, and they don't have anywhere to go. I mean, they're not going to come in here, but if you advertise it as that, you have people that, if they're having meetings, people come up from Ventura, Santa Barbara, Carpinteria even, and then people San Luis Obispo, and in between, this could be their meeting area. And you could rent that out, those rooms for them, and then set them up like this, and still have weekend weddings, whatever the case is.
So-
That house is big enough to facilitate a lot of things.
So at this point, would council be willing to move forward saying that the library could take up a part of that house
Correct. That's what
and
I'm
then
saying.
leave the other part open for weddings or
Right.
meetings.
There was some talk about taking the kitchen out, doing all this. I mean, what a grandiose waste to take out the kitchen. And there's already a refrigerator in there. I mean, it's like ready to go. I mean, like I said, the only reason the Williamsons didn't let people use that house is they were living in it. So, you know, now you have a place for the bride to get ready, the grooms to have a couple of beers before the wedding,
Like
you
it's
know,
a
pat each other
destination.
on the back.
They
Yes,
don't-
it's a
they don't have to
destination.
go
It's-
to the
Madam Mayor,
store.
It's right. It's like they don't have to get ready in their hotel and everything, and then everybody transports over to there. Then they have the wedding ceremony, blah blah blah. You're right there. You're it.
City manager?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh.
I just was, a lot of good ideas coming out here. I would simply caution the city council not to get too far in depth on that. While the layout of the building
Right.
might make sense, there are architectural, ADA accessibility issues. There's all sorts of issues that need to be taken into consideration.
That's why I was
before
thinking,
we decide
can
on
we,
how a design
if we
is,
just
yeah.
move forward at this point and said that we would keep part of it for the library at this point and part to rent out, and then
Figure out.
get our
We
layouts
can bring an
and figure that
architect in
out.
later and
Well,
kind of figure out the
Can I
details
ask,
as we go.
though, Like, are we planning on moving the library to a central, like, government location with all the government buildings? And if so, is it not reasonable to consider that this would happen in the next 3 to 5 years?
Can I comment on that?
And-
Ed Holly and I have been working on that since before electricity. And we have yet to put anything on Avenue of Flags that makes any sense. And we've gone through a lot of meetings and a lot of people that had ideas and such. So I would say bare minimum, just based on our past, it would take you at least 5 years to get something on the avenue.
And the whole thing is if we had talked about moving City Hall, Planning Department, council chambers to the avenue. We want the avenue to be our center of town.
Go-to place.
If the library, if we did move it over there, and it just fit in, it filled a niche over there, it would not have to come along with City Hall and the Planning Department.
Meaning that even if we did that and we liked it at the Williamson property, we could just leave it there?
Yeah.
We moved and still have the room there for whatever.
Yeah, then you could rent the room out too. I don't think the expense of moving the library there is going to be that big. Fixing a garage to become a meeting room, there will be some expense there.
But not.
But it could be used for anything, yeah. And the nice thing is if you put the French doors in, the wall with the French doors, then you could set patio furniture right out in the driveway. It's ADA compliant.
Right.
And people sitting still have this incredible view. They can still walk around and enjoy the view. So that's, it's right at this point, I just think we've got to do something. We've had the property for 13 months, and I would really like to just move forward. If we could just agree to have meeting rooms, weddings, and find a place for the library in this house, that's a start.
One last question about the library there. Is the library open on weekends? And if so, how do you handle the library being open on weekends with wedding venues being there on weekends? Because I would not assume that people having weddings would want people coming and going for the library at the same time that they're doing a wedding.
That is something that
It's a good question.
programmatically we would have to work out either with the library schedule, but more than likely not with so much with the library schedule. It would have to be something that a potential renter of the wedding facility would have to accommodate in their routine. That would probably be the easiest way to do it. That would be included within any kind of contract that we would establish to use the location, yes.
And I would expect that it wouldn't really cost that much money to move all the books out of here over there because
I tell you,
because everybody that wrote us a letter that we had to listen to last time is going to put them in your trunk and you're going to drive them over there.
The Friends of the Library will be very active in this.
Full trunks.
As a friend
And
of
back
the
seats.
library, yeah. All righty. Any other comments? I'd like to make a motion that we use the main residence building at 202 Dairyland for rental space perhaps for meetings, for weddings, and then to find a way to put the library in it as well.
I'll second that.
Linda?
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Councilmember Lewis. Aye. And Vice Mayor Sanchez.
Aye.
Thank you.
Could we,
Thank you.
could we then incorporate the people that design what people like to live in? You know, the planning, design, in fact, maybe, you know, we started with Cal Poly when we got Buellton incorporated. I think there's a lot of bright minds and there's some design engineers.
You're not going to trust me and my crayons?
You have to leave them at home.
I think we will investigate whatever options are available to
But
come up with a design.
I just think, rather than us five, I don't know that any one of us has the breadth of experience and knowledge and foresight that's going to work for Buellton. But I think if we had the visioning that for lack of a better word, we need to hear from the people. We've heard from a lot of people that tell us they want to do this and they want the house. There's a lot more there than the house. I think we have 24 acres.
And that's why we're moving on to agenda item 9.
Exactly.
Just sweeping the rug. man.
You are so on top of this, Councilman Andrusik. Agenda item 9 is decision on future use of property east of the barn at 202 Dairyland Road, the Williamson property. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This item moves on to the next portion of the property that the City Council would be considering. This being 2 areas, generally speaking, to the east and to the south of the barn itself on the Williamson property. One site is on the upper portion, transitioning to the lower portion. The other site that's being discussed is just to the south of that on the lower portion of the property. There are 2 uses or 2 potential uses that have expressed interest in moving to these parts of the property. The first of these is the Santa Ynez Valley Children's Museum. The City Council has seen in the past through the workshops at the Williamson barn a preliminary site plan of the Children's Museum's proposed activities and improvements on the site. Again, this would take place, generally speaking, to the east of the barn, from the tractor shed over to the property line that abuts the Ranch Club Estates, and then proceeds south down the slope to the access road leading to the bottom portion of the site. The proposal as it exists right now does not contain a proposal for a rent payment, but as has been noted previously, we will need to make that, should the City Council decide that this is an appropriate use for the location, we will need to negotiate that with the property owner and come to some sort of an agreement on what fair market value would be for the occupation and use of that site in the long term. The other site that's proposed is approximately 1 acre immediately to the south of this on the lower portion of the site, and that is proposed to be occupied by Santa Ynez Valley horseback rides. They're an operation which is currently occupying property about a mile to the west of the city limits of Buellton, and they are proposing to move to this location, and in so doing would essentially need about 1 acre of property. They would occupy that acre of property with a number of structures, stables, corrals, an office building, and some other accessory structures, and some fencing, which would totally enclose their operation. The operation, as it's currently proposed, would move buildings onto the site, which would be temporary in nature, or maybe temporary is not the best word. Portable is probably a better description of those. They would be moved to the site, but at some point in the future, should the lease terminate or the city need to adjust the location of this, they could be moved relatively easily. That's the intent of the proposed operator. They have a business plan which has been roughly spelled out within the materials that the City Council has seen. The business operates on an appointment-only basis right now, limits the number of visitors at any given time, limited by the number of animals and the number of staff members that they have available. And they have included within their proposal an offer for rent, and that offer would be $3,500 per month. We would need, again, to verify that that represents a fair market value rent for that portion of the site. And that would be addressed through the negotiation stage should the city council direct staff to move in that direction. So at this point, we have representatives from the horseback rides within the audience here, I believe, yes. And we have Ashley Jenkins from the Children's Museum is online here with us as well. So with that, I'll conclude my report. I'm happy to answer any questions the city council may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the city manager before I go to public comment? Questions?
I do. You're talking about fair value for rent with the Children's Museum. I thought that might be more like a Botanic Gardens or a Paws Park, and I was wondering, does the Botanic Gardens or the Paws Park pay rent to the city, or is that a gift?
It's not a gift. It's a lease or a license agreement, I believe, is how that's set up. And the agreement is such that those facilities are open to the public without charge in exchange for the ability for the exclusive use of that property by the operators. The operators then take on the responsibility of the day-to-day maintenance of that, and they bear some of the cost. That may or may not be a viable model for the Children's Museum. It depends on whether or not the plan is to take an admission charge. These are things that would need to be worked out through that process that would follow this, should the city council decide to go in that direction.
So because that's one of my questions would be about.
Good question.
Would the services that the Children's Museum provides fall under those services that the city would ordinarily provide in sort of recreational facilities?
That's a really good question, and what we would wind up doing is taking a look at other cities, larger cities, to determine whether Children's Museum type uses are normally provided. If they are, then as the city manager said, we may be able to work out a deal where rent could be decreased, or in the alternative, it's possible, and I'm not committing to anything, but it's possible we could do a rent-free situation, but then they would have to cap the fee that they would take in order that the fee that they were taking in kept the use affordable to the people so that they weren't pricing people out. So we can certainly work on the details. You give us the direction which way you'd like to see it go. We'll work the details out as best we can and hopefully bring you something that you can then approve.
So the Botanic Gardens has a budget, they take in money, they do have activities, and how does that, they just manage their own bank entity?
They're an independent nonprofit corporation. They have their own fundraising activities and their own bank accounts and their own board of directors. We simply have an agreement with them to occupy the Botanic Gardens portion of the park, and for them to use it for the purpose of providing a community botanical garden. Likewise, with Paws Park, the city's dog park, we have an agreement with the nonprofit corporation that manages that for the same purpose. And we, as the city, do provide an amount to each of those organizations each year through the budget to help offset some of the costs of some of the maintenance, but certainly by no means is it all of the maintenance. It really is a joint venture between the nonprofit and the city. That's the way it was structured. That's not to say this couldn't be structured that way. I'm sure it could. It just depends on what the what the ultimate use is going to be and what the vision of the Children's Museum as its own nonprofit entity would want to see.
And as Councilmember Lewis said, in both cases, those are activities that are regularly provided by cities and provided in the case of Buellton at no cost.
An extension of the Parks and Rec or extension of the Parks Department?
Yes, sir. Exactly. Yep.
So we have someone else do all the work.
Umbrella.
Okay, any other questions? Then I'm going to open it up for public comment, and I will go to Ashley Jenkins as our first speaker. Welcome back.
Unmute myself. Hello, thank you for having me. I know that you've all heard from me on a number of occasions. For anybody that hasn't or wants a refresher, we are building an outdoor-based children's museum. Our mission is really to make nature play, open-ended play opportunities accessible to everyone. As you all know, as residents here, we live in a beautiful place. I mean, we just couldn't be luckier to be here. However, that being said, it's still not accessible to everyone. Not everyone has the time to plan a hike, get the gear, go to Midland Trails, take time off work, single parents, working parents, people of different socioeconomic backgrounds, different physical ability levels. So what we're looking to do is to create something that serves tourists and locals alike. When I say residents, I mean anyone that's coming to enjoy our space. But we really want to provide a service for families so that they don't have to drive an hour to get to something cool. We want to bring the coolness to Buellton. We'll have recirculating water features and playhouses and rotating nature art. We're also working with a really amazing organization called Nature Track that operates here out of the valley. And they take kids hiking at no cost. They're just a phenomenal nonprofit. They recently got a grant to get these really heavy duty wheelchairs so that somebody can come in their typical wheelchair that they would use at a school setting, get into this, thick wheeled, amazing electronic based wheelchair and be able to go over rougher ground to hike. One of their docents uses it on all the hikes that they lead. So yeah, we're just looking to really, really offer a service to the city, to partner with other organizations that are already rocking it, already bringing value to the city. And by that I mean the valley. And yeah, that's what we want to do. So we've got a lot of community partnerships poised and ready to go, and we just need a site to build on, and we're hoping to do that in Buellton.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ashley and the Children's Museum? Nope.
I had one for,
Sure.
we were talking about charging and fees or whatever. You're nonprofited, but you have expenses. Is that all going to be just volunteers, and is it going to be donations? And then, or would you need working capital for whatever? Is it someone, you got to pay the clerk and that stuff?
Yeah, great question. I think what I hear you saying is kind of what's our business model moving forward? Is this free? Are we charging? What that looks like. We are definitely approaching donors and will continue to be. We've got a couple grants under our belt already. I met with the Chumash Foundation today and just had a really positive interaction with them. So we are definitely going to be fundraising for this. I think we'll need to. However, in my research, I've researched 10 local children's museums, including the Santa Maria Discovery Museum, the Moxie down in Santa Barbara, the Natural History Museum, all the children's-based museums. They're covering most of their day-to-day operational costs themselves through their admission. So the admission and the kind of monthly annual memberships are really driving a lot more of their operational costs than you would think. You'd think it would be all donors and all fundraising, but that admission fee is really a big driver for them as far as a budget line item. So our current model that we're pursuing is to charge a really minimal fee. So it would be fee-based. But we're looking at something between $8 and $11, probably, on the lower end as we open for phase one, when we're kind of looking at the top part of the site with the tractor barn, and then maybe we bump it up to $10 a person when we open up our lower portion with some, cool slides and tunnels and that sort of thing. So we're keeping it really minimal, and the way we're looking at it is the more we're able to charge that admission overall for kind of everyone that comes, the more we're able to then drop our cost to $5 a kid or $6 a kid when we're bringing in school groups and working with any sort of group like CASA or, children in the foster care system or any group that's really out there serving kids. We're going to work with them to make that happen. We're also working with 2 specific donors to get that kind of pool of funds that's really just for scholarships. So that students in groups as well as individual families can get partnered with those. So does that answer your question about kind of the admission and the financial model we're looking at?
Yeah, and also annual fee, like So people could buy in for a year and come anytime they want, kind of deal. Like,
I didn't catch that at all.
So like the Moxie or the zoo, you can get an annual pass. Just a question.
Yeah, yeah, we will be offering those, the annual passes. And again, I think that's from the research I've done with all the other organizations I've interviewed, is that's a pretty important part, and that most families are really happy to do that, to buy a pass, and they feel like they're getting value out of it. We're getting, income out of it to offset all the operating costs and the programs, for the other groups that can't pay full price, if that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ashley? All righty, then I'm moving on to Pam Nico. Next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Madam Mayor, there are the actual, or the proponents or the proposed operators.
Mr. Sweeney is here. Pam turned her slip in first.
Oh, okay. Just in case the city council had questions.
There
on
we
the
go.
operation, that would be.
Thank you, Pam. Mr. Sweeney, you're up next. This is San Ynez Valley Horseback Rides. I try to do it in order, but I understand. Sorry.
Everyone, I'm Bob Sweeney. My wife Evie and I own Santa Barbara Beach Horseback Rides and San Ynez Valley Horseback Rides. We're really pleased and honored to be able to make this presentation to you guys and the proposal. And I wanted to introduce some of my team that came in here today. So there's my wife Evie, and next to her is Vanessa Soria. She's our barn manager and general overall runner of the show. Over here I have Sasha Alleman, who's a Dunn student and our lead intern. Heather Carr, she just graduated from Dos Pueblos High School. She's one of our trail guides. So they came here to show their passion for what we're doing. So the proposal's in front of you. I don't really think we should go through line by line what we're proposing. You can read that. I just wanted to give you a feel for who we are and what our vision is, what we're about. We're a super fun business. We're an entertainment business, really. We have a mix right now, about 50-50 of Santa Barbara County residents and people from out of town who come and take our trail rides, our pony rides, and we'll also enjoy our petting zoo when we open that. I'm a lifelong horse person from the marketing point, and so I know how to market a horse adventure. That's one of my love languages, and this is a great opportunity for people to kind of get back to nature, enjoy animals, enjoy being outdoors, enjoy learning something. All of our staff are really passionate about kids. We have a lot of kids. We take kids from 2 years up on pony rides, and it's all hand-led. It's all very gentle and careful. We're giving them an experience to kind of open up a door. So when we had the opportunity to present to you and move to your location, it was super exciting for us. I think it blends well with Riverview Park. It's an outdoor recreation, and with the San Ynez, or with the Children's Museum on top, it'll really mesh well. Our petting zoo will be free to the public. It'll be free to all those kids to come down and enjoy. We'll have a bunch of exotic cows and sheep and things like that. Give a little girl a brush and you got a cow with 12-inch hair and they just spend the day. I mean, it's great. So we also envision doing clinics for kids and doing clinics for adults. So maybe after work you come and our guides teach you how to ride a horse for the first time in your life, and out we go down to the trail. So those are all things that we can do. Really the beauty of this, both of our operations in Santa Barbara, we're in Summerland, and here is that we're very self-contained. We only take up about an acre. Everything's very efficient, very effective. The horses are super well taken care of. There's turnout areas for them. There's warm-up areas. There's the pony pen, we call it. There's a corral we ride them around, then we take them on the outer track. So it's all really well managed and organized, and we can process people safely and happily. We just opened in December, and we immediately exploded. And we need a new location for various reasons. And I think this is going to be kind of an ideal fit for us if it interests you. And I'm hoping that you see the same connections that we see, that this might be a wonderful addition to Buellton and to the whole proposed situation you've all generated in. So there's a little brochure I passed out, just kind of give you some pictorials of what we do, and just wanted to answer some questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Sweeney?
I have a couple questions.
Please.
Would you have other people bring in their horses Like a trail, it wouldn't be like.
No board.
No,
Nothing,
this
no,
is, yeah,
no,
this is,
no, not to stay, but like for, if you had a ride and you wanted to have, some trail riders come for, bring the horses to go with you or not, something like that.
I wish I could let one of my girls answer that question because it's a definitive no, and here's why. Horses have this pecking order, and if this one's in front of that one and that one's in front of this one and they don't like it, then they're just gonna be gritchy. So we don't invite public in for that reason because it messes up like the chi of the whole thing. Plus, there's all kinds of equine diseases around. We have to be vaccinated and everybody's gotta be isolated. We quarantine for 2 weeks when we bring a new horse in just to be safe, so we can't do that. So, and we get calls all the time for that, actually, so we can't do it.
My other question was, the where you decided to put it here. We have the wastewater treatment plant is directly next to that. And within a couple hundred feet is a sample well that we have to have we sample our wastewater. So the whole town is judged on the water quality of this well.
Right.
In the way that's close to you. We're gonna have, looking at, in my view, I would rather have the thing all the way down by the river on the entrance and further away from the house, the barn, and the water wells. So that's, I don't know if that's an option. We've talked about the location. That's something different that can be decided, or is that the location that you pick?
The reason we picked that location is because Scott showed us a proposed idea for soccer fields and baseball diamonds somewhere down the road. So we kind of thought it'd better to tuck it in the corner in case there was room for that down there. But I'm not opposed to any of that. The challenge would be we need water and power. We don't need a lot, but we do need that. So that would be just a longer run.
Well, there's water at the park, so I mean, literally at the end of that little road on the west corner, we'd have water. I think.
Yeah.
But that's logistic. But
Then you've got your petting zoo too.
Right.
Well, that'd be a good spot too, next to the kids over there.
Right. That's why the other thing was when I heard about the Discovery Museum having the petting zoo right down the path. That's all kind of connected and copacetic. So yeah.
Is there enough distance between that pond?
Yeah, I'm just.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out how many feet there is. Yeah.
What, may I ask, what specifically is your concern about that?
Well, the manure, the urine from the horses all going into the ground, and it eventually goes to the groundwater.
So let me address that. We clean the stalls, the pens twice a day. We put it on a tractor and we haul it off every week. So it doesn't accumulate, it doesn't saturate. The stalls, the pens will be graded to go back to dirt, and then we'll dump sand on them. So the sand is really what's going to absorb the urine. We also use a product that's you buy it by the bag and you throw it in there and absorb stuff, and we can haul that out too. It's all biodegradable. So I don't know that there'll be an accumulation of that will really soak in. I understand your concern, and I happy to address it, and I'm happy to consider moving it around as well. So, but one of the things when you operate the business we do, it has to be really user friendly for city folk. And when they come up there and if it smells and there's flies, so we know we have to keep it clean.
Yeah, I'm sure you follow all this. My other question was, we planned events. We had the drive-in theater. I'd like to see some concerts down there off the bluff. We're going to have beer festivals, wine festivals. We're going to have, a lot of events that I wonder if the horses, fuel stock. The event, but would your horses be comfortable if we have a band playing?
Right. So let me kind of paint the picture. There's going to be probably a 6-foot non-climb fence that's going to be buried. It's going to have a cover around it, so there'll be an opacity to it. So you won't be able to look and see the horses. The horses won't be able to see out. That's done on purpose. It's to keep the horses calm. It's to keep the public out. So I'm not sure how that's going to look. If it's going to be a mesh covering, or if it's going to be wood slats in the fence, something like that. So the horses, the particular horses we have by choice are all around 18 to 22 years old. They're retired citizens who we brought back from pastures with exercise and treatment and medicines in some case. They're all been there and done that. And so they're not rattled by much. They're not rattled by, we ride on the river now and there's always gunshots. There's always kids on motorbikes and they don't care. So even a buck jumps out of the weeds and they're like, oh, that's fine. So anyway, I don't think that's going to be a problem. And we're going to try to mitigate that as well, just why we're designed, the way that we're designed.
I just, in one of the maps, it just looks like it's gonna be right in the middle of everything. And, but there's more than just a couple things that we wanna do down there. And,
I think there'll still be room. I mean, looking at this map, it looks like there's still room for the drive-in. And Buell Fest.
Buell Stock.
Buell Stock, I'm sorry.
It looked well placed.
Scott showed me the map of the idea of the baseball diamonds and the soccer fields, and I kind of designed this to fit into that. So I'm open for any
Yeah.
suggestion. We could even make it elongated against the berm too, and not, longer this way. I just need about an acre of space, whatever way you want to configure it.
And I will note that the area that's shown on the aerial photo here is likely significantly larger than an acre. So it probably would not, yeah, that's probably 2 or 3 acres in size here, maybe. Yeah. So,
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Sweeney? Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity. Appreciate it very much.
Pam Nico, your turn. Your turn.
Madam Mayor and council members, first of all, my name is Pam Nico, and I want to lend my support for the San Ynez horseback riding, and would really like for you to consider it. This week in the Valley Life, it said this big article about excellent wine and entertainment in Buellton, which we know and we love and we all enjoy it. But again, we're trying to get families and get entertainment here in Buellton, and particularly in that area. The way that it works and brings in families and brings with the horse riding and also with the pony rides, just gives kids a great way to do it, a great, just outdoors and being together and being with the families. It's a very well-run company. It's going to be exciting to see them down there. I think that they're already on the video with the Buellton City Chamber, that they have that, it's an opening video that they've come down and put the San Ynez horseback riding on, so you're kind of already advertising them in the city. I just think it's going to make that whole area just a really great place to come and be and just, really promote Buellton as a really good place to come. Also, that being said, council, thank you very much for listening to all of the letters of support and all of the things that you went through the last meeting. We really, truly do appreciate it, and appreciate just all of the time and consideration that you have put in the Williamson's property, and taking all the time. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other public comment? Do we have anybody on Zoom besides Ashley?
I don't believe so. Anyone on Zoom want to make a public comment on this item? Doesn't look that way.
All righty.
One question.
A question for
Mr. Sweeney.
Mr. Sweeney?
Is the river just open for riding to?
Once you get to the watershed, there's trails and paths.
As far as getting into the river, there's no other restrictions. When you get out there, you can go wherever you like.
That's my experience. And the neighbors around where we are currently have all given me permission to ride across and around the properties.
I just wonder.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All righty. Bringing it back to council for discussion.
Well, to address John's thing, according to the sheriff's department, that's public land, so they have the right to go down there.
That sounds good.
Council members?
I'd be willing to make a motion if there's not.
If I,
I motion that we use the property for the San Ynez horseback riding and the San Ynez Valley Children's Museum as presented, with you guys doing the logistics.
is there a second on that motion?
I will second that with an amendment, is that in negotiations, I like to have a drop dead date. I don't want this to be the Bach Hotel. So if they're having an issue, and it's going to take them 2 years to get something done, it should be a non-starter.
Yes, we'll work with with both potential operators to come up with a schedule for implementation of any agreement that we come up with, we'll bring that to the city council at the time the agreement is brought before you. I would ask as part of the motion that, or ask for clarification as part of the motion that the city council would authorize me to sign a letter of intent with the Children's Museum that would allow them to begin the fundraising process.
Yes, I will amend my motion.
To include the city manager and Councilman King's.
Yes.
Yeah.
All righty.
And I will second that amendment.
So we've had a first and a second. Linda?
Okay, Councilmember Lewis. Aye. Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sanchez.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Thank you very
Can we
much.
have, can we put a caveat for performance by thus and so we're not here 24 months from now saying, well, they're still working on it.
Yes, sir, absolutely, for sure. We'll,
Yes.
when the contracts come back, there will be a scheduled performance in them. Absolutely, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All righty, moving on to agenda item number 10. Contract extension with Cosmont Companies for Economic Development Services. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This particular agenda item deals with our annual contract with Cosmont Companies for Economic Development Services. This contract has been in place for a number of years and would typically be brought back to the City Council as a consent calendar item. However, in this instance, we have brought it back because we're proposing a little bit different approach to that. In the past, we have had a single contract with Cosmont to provide not only economic development services for the city and to the city directly, but also to work with proposed or prospective applicants for projects on the Avenue of Flags, to work through their process, make sure that they comply with the specific plan. And essentially, that work is intended to further the city's economic development goals. We came up with an interesting situation last fiscal year, or last calendar year, no, I guess it's last fiscal year, where we had enough activity going on the Avenue of Flags that between staff's use of Cosmont for economic development services and the private sector's use of Cosmont for, to interface with the city on this, we reached our not to exceed amount on the contract. And we have spent the last essentially 6 months without Cosmont services because we run out of funding. So this year, what staff is proposing is that we essentially enter into the same agreement with Cosmont again for a not to exceed amount of $20,000. Staff will use that particular contract solely for the purpose of working with Cosmont directly with the city on economic development activities. Staff would then return to the city council next month or possibly in August, depending on the timing and the schedule or the load on the next agenda, with a supplemental contract or a separate contract with Cosmont that would allow the city to pay Cosmont for those services from developer deposit funds, which is how we've been taking the developer. When they come in and want to work on a project, they will deposit money with the city, and then we will pay for Cosmont services out of that fund. So just to avoid the situation where we wind up running out of funds for the city's primary contract before the end of the fiscal year, staff is proposing to set this up in a two-contract sort of situation. There's not any significant differences between the new contract that's proposed and the prior contracts. It's just that separation of funding sources. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions for city manager? No questions? Open it up for public comment. Anybody on Zoom?
We have Joe Diegues from Cosmont.
I know Joe.
Joe, do you have like to make any comments?
I didn't have anything planned. I just wanted to say hi, and it's a shame that we haven't seen each other in a while. Obviously, very much appreciated this. I think it's over the past 8 years, the relationship we've had with the city of Buellton. We valued it, and we'd love to continue it if that's possible.
Thank you very much. Good. Okay, I'm closing public comment, bringing it back to council. Discussion or motion?
I'd like to move that we direct the city manager to approve the 8th Amendment to the Cosmont Company's contract, attachment 1, for $20,000 for fiscal year 21-22, as written.
So we've had a motion and a second. Linda?
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Lewis. Aye. Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sanchez.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
We're all in agreement tonight. This is really nice. Nice to see you, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Not buying anything.
Likewise.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can't wait so long. to come
Agenda
back.
item number 11, consideration of extension of contract with Buellton Business Association / Chamber of Commerce for operation of a visitors bureau. Mr. Wolf again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Again, another contract that's been issued annually for quite some time. This is for Visitors Bureau Services, and the contract is with the Buellton Business Association and Chamber of Commerce. Last year, we had a unique situation when the Visitors Bureau contract came up, and that unique situation had to do with the fact that a large or a substantial portion of the funding that the city had agreed to pay the Visitors Bureau had not been expended by the Visitors Bureau due to COVID restrictions. In an effort to kind of balance things out, the Visitors Bureau suggested that we reduce the amount of the current fiscal year's contract by an approximate amount of the money that they had not expended and just allow them to keep that money, and therefore they could move into the fiscal year with the same budget allocation as they had prior, and it wouldn't require the bookkeeping of having to pass money back and forth in the meantime. We wind up in a similar situation this year where a portion of the money, it's a smaller portion this year, it's between $25,000 and $30,000, has not been expended or is not anticipated to be expended during this fiscal year. And so we are looking to enter into an agreement with the same type of concept as we did last year. The budget that was just approved by the City Council does reflect this shift in numbers. So this was anticipated at the time the budget was brought forward. I will note that this is, again, a single-year contract. Last year's was a single-year contract. Typically, they're for longer than that. And I will also note that it is our intention after this single-year contract to release an RFP and accept proposals for a subsequent contract moving forward after this. But given the COVID situation, given the inability for the Visitors Bureau to do all of the things they typically would have done this year, it just makes more sense from staff's perspective to allow them to finish out this coming contract year, moving out of COVID, and then we can start fresh in a new environment. And we can establish a scope of work for an RFP moving forward that doesn't have a big cloud over it due to COVID. So I'm happy to answer any questions the City Council may have, but right now I'll conclude my report.
Thank you very much, sir. We also have the Visitors Bureau here for any questions. Are there any questions? Opening up for public comment. Did you want to say anything, or you're just here to answer questions if we have them?
Mainly to answer questions. I think Scott did a good job with it, and just kind of to share. I mean, I guess you can imagine why we haven't used all the funds, but just, you know, we've had to pause many of our marketing campaigns and whatnot throughout it. And yes.
If there's no objections, you can take that off if you want, because it's.
I'm sorry, I should have noted it. Well, while you're at the lectern here, you can take the mask off.
Sweaty.
Yeah, that's okay.
Sorry. it's
Breathe,
flying in a
Kathy.
plane for hours. Let me get a breath. Sorry. Anyhow, thank you. But anyhow, no, we've just, you know, we've done a lot. We've been able to do a little bit more this year because we have had a little bit more open time than last fiscal. So we have used some. We've come up with some new innovative ways and things to do to keep our visitors engaged and stay in the forefront of their minds when they think of travel once COVID kind of relaxed and they could come back and see us again. So anyhow, just to explain some of those reasons of why, and we appreciate you working with us through the year last year. Hopefully we can do it again this year for you and continue on with our plans and how to keep people coming back. And they're coming back. Our hotels are doing a lot better, and traffic, of course, has picked up. Foot traffic in our lobby has picked up a lot, which is great. We're starting to see more people, and even groups coming back to get welcome bags made for them. So that was like non-existent for a while. So it's just great to see everything kind of coming back again. But anyhow, I'm happy to answer any questions if you have.
You've done a really good job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your support.
I want to compliment that you don't go there and see we're going to be closed from 2 to 4 or something like that. You're always there. And I mean, there are two two human beings, and you're always there. And
Yeah.
and it's reassuring that it makes us want to support your efforts, because you're marketing the community, and we basically are able to give you marketing tools.
And we appreciate it. And one more thing I should have said in public comment too, but it pertains to this as well. The pole banners, I just want to give everybody a heads up because they're looking really ratty right now, and we're well aware. And so I'm working with the city and stuff too, but they're on order. So we have the new parking lot.
Oh, my Lord.
They're looking really bad, and we understand, but we have the new parking lot poles, and those are not adjustable. So the company had to send us a sample, which we then in turn had to kind of go put it up to see if it fit before I could place the order on them. So anyhow, we had some lift airs and whatnot, some equipment things. So anyhow, we made it. So the order's in. So those should be coming soon, and we'll have those all refreshed on the avenue and 246, and in the new parking lot we'll have them as well. So
Wonderful.
It should brighten it up out there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I had a question about the lift.
I don't know if Rose knows about the lift. So
The lift wasn't working the other day. They were on a ladder hanging. The banners went up and by.
Yeah.
But I thought and I guess is the lift not working?
that gets them up and down to the
Yeah,
banner.
there
I
is
know.
something wrong with the lift, and they're waiting on your parts or
Parts and
something
stuff.
like that, but.
Yeah,
Can we get
JC
that
kind of
going before we have
made a
to use the ladder
contraption and we
on them?
figured it out, but I don't know if it was the safest way. Anyhow, you just plug your ears. We did it. No pictures were taken.
La, 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 la.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You know we can't edit this tape, right?
Okay, so I'm closing public comment, bringing it back to council for discussion, for a motion.
I'd motion to approve
A single-year contract.
a single-year contract so that we can review it
Got it.
next year for a multi-year agreement with any necessary changes.
I'll second it.
All righty, we've got a motion and a second.
Councilmember Lewis.
Let's read.
Councilmember Andrusik.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sanchez.
Aye.
And Mayor Segal.
Aye. Thank you. All righty, agenda item 12, request for position letter to the Air Pollution Control District regarding Central Coast agriculture violation. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. As you'll recall, at the last meeting, there was a brief discussion amongst city council members during the council member comments portion, or the committee reports, I believe, portion of the agenda, regarding a request by Mayor Sierra to write a position letter to APCD regarding violations which are noted at Central Coast Agriculture, which is the cannabis cultivation facility about a half mile to the south of the city. As this was not an agendized item, the city council was not able to undertake any discussion in depth, but there was a request to place this on this agenda. So my job here is to put it on the agenda and turn it back over to the mayor and the city council to have this discussion, and if it's appropriate, direct staff as you deem fit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I appreciate it. I saw Mr. Wolf had put the News Hawk magazine, and I do have to admit at our last meeting, I was very hot. I'm still really upset. I had a friend say, "You're livid." And I said, I was livid 2 weeks ago. I'm still really upset. This Central Coast Ag had 11 diesel generators running at its operation on Santa Rosa Road, which is a half a mile from our city limits. It is illegal to run diesel generators on this agricultural property because it has serious carcinogenic pollutants. And they were caught. One of the generators had been there over 300 days. They were caught. The 11 generators were removed. Air Pollution Control District is working on the fines for the 11 generators that were removed. The The problem is that as soon as the county left, Central Coast Ag brought in 4 more generators, knowing that it was illegal, totally different from running cars up and down Highway 246. That's not illegal. Having a diesel generator that's pumping out cancer-causing agents a half a mile from city limits.
And stationary, not
Stationary.
moving. Not moving.
They've been caught with the 4 new generators, and they are refusing to move them because they're in the middle of production. They said that economically it would hurt them, and they'll take care of it in August when they're done with their production. They'll replace them with something that is legal and not cancer-causing for residents of Buellton. I would like, well, what I said 2 weeks ago was I would like the city manager to write a letter to APCD stating that we believe that they should be fined to the fullest extent, since they know that they're not supposed to be doing this, and they have decided that it's their bottom line is more important than our residents. I also thought 2 weeks ago that Bilton should say that we should receive a portion of the penalties, which I don't think we can really do. But I just can't believe that there are companies out there who have their bottom line that's more important than the health of local communities. What bothered me was that John DeFriel, who has taken us on tours of the plant and tells us what a good neighbor he wants to be, well, he's not being a good neighbor. So I would still like, I did get a message from Erin Arlen Janae, who's the executive director. It's been a crazy day. I did not have a chance to return her call. She was going to tell me right now they're working with the fines for the 11 generators that were removed. When the 4 generators are removed, then they will work on fines for those, for that equipment. So I would still like the city of Buellton to send a letter to APCD and perhaps to the county of Santa Barbara, who just gave Central Coast Ag their just most glowing report previous to finding out about this, about how well they work with their neighbors. I'd like a letter sent to our county supervisors and to APCD just saying that we really don't appreciate these cancer-causing agents being blown by the winds, which come right into Buellton, that put our residents at risk, and that these fines should be, that they usually negotiate fines. I don't think there should be any negotiation for these 4. I don't think there should be negotiations for any of them, but I would like to have the council's support on this, and I leave it open for discussion. I don't think we have any public comment on it.
So is there anyone on Zoom who would like to make a comment?
Okay.
Is it possible?
Closing public comment. Yes.
To have a, it just seems to me there's a breakdown in communication, and if this should be dealt with, APCD should have a lot of history with how to deal with. I've been involved with APCD, and they have they've got a dictionary that
They've changed it so the executive director, Erin Arlen Janae, who's a really sharp, just really incredibly bright, she's given the total control of negotiating fines and penalties. It's not a certain amount. They start at a certain amount, and then there are negotiations. And she knows how I feel about this. I've been very vocal about my feelings, and I would like to have the teeth of the city of Buellton behind me.
I support the letter as long as we're not asking for a portion of the fines.
Okay.
I would, are we still in discussion or we're trying to make a
Absolutely.
motion? reading the letter, it looks like the county is holding up the permits, and I made a call to a guy I know that works there, and he said, I said, you guys, spend a lot of money out there working. He said that he had spent $35,000 in a day on salaries and expenses, so they do have a quite an expensive operation. And he said that if he had the power and the permits ready, he said he could be off the generators. I talked to him on a Friday, and he said I could be off the generators on Monday if there wasn't a holdup with different permits and all that. So if we were going to write a letter to somebody, I would like to write a letter to whoever's holding up the permits. It takes so long to get anything done. If they had a little expedience in their stuff and didn't have so many people fighting it and so many APC. I've dealt with them. We have generators at the sewer plant. We have generators at the water plants. We have generators everywhere. And if they weren't there, a guy would be using a diesel tractor to do cabbage over there, whatever. There's going to be diesel is just the most productive and efficient generator of anything that you need to do. The generators that are there, I know there's a lot of writing about the carcinogens and all that. They blow away. The Granite Construction's sitting over here billowing smoke that has, I don't know what the carcinogens are. I doubt it's cleaner than running a clean diesel engine. So I don't think
it's gravel and it's not diesel.
It's the city's place to try to pile on to. I think this company would be doing their job and getting everything done efficiently.
John?
If it went through the
I don't think they should have opened their facility if they didn't have the proper permits. I don't think that should have, they know the effects of these diesel engines, and they still went ahead, and we are a half a mile away. They shouldn't have been in operation if they couldn't get the permits that they needed for the right equipment.
But that's not our job.
But it is our city. So anyway, you're still in favor of a letter. Is there anybody else in favor of a letter? Just.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the issue of the permits, is a thing, but it doesn't change the fact that they knew that they shouldn't have done it and they did it, and the impact to the city is what we need to concern ourselves with. But I do see John's point that is an issue that might have, precipitated this event, but that's not something that we as the city really have any say in.
My concern is my city.
Right.
So I'd like to make the motion that the city manager write a letter to APCD with a copy to county supervisors with our position.
Second.
Thank you.
And for clarification, that position is that APCD should levy fines in the maximum amount possible based on the violations that have been noted.
Aaron, Arlen, Janae will make the final decision. I just want, I appreciate the city backing me up because
it's like a victim statement.
I'd like to
It
change
is.
also to have verbiage that the county would be
Reactive.
a little faster to react to save them the necessity to have a generator.
Can I comment on that?
Please.
According to the article in the News Hawk that was attached to this, they're figuring on going on the grid in August. I don't know that
They will be off and on.
I don't know that anybody could, hasten the plow on that anyways.
Like I said, they could be on the grid tomorrow if they had everything.
But they could, if they'd set it up earlier, they would have been on the grid already. You don't run equipment that is cancer causing a half a mile from a city. And I just think we need to let them know that they're not the good neighbors that they say they are.
Well, if you want to go and coulda, shoulda, wouldas, the county dropped the ball on this in the first place. I mean, they should have known these guys weren't on the grid before they allowed them to plant.
301 days?
Yeah, and they voted on this and called it according to this article, for their meeting as the platinum standard. Well, they weren't even on the grid.
No.
How would you think they would be the platinum standard?
I am not happy with the county or the Board of Supervisors either. I'm not, but we need to make a statement. I leave it to our city manager to, you are an amazing letter writer. I just want APCD and the county to know that our city doesn't appreciate having these chemicals being blown in. And that maybe there was something that if they had planned it earlier, I mean, technically, I think they should be shut down. But that's me. It is an expensive operation, but it's our health.
So I will write the letter addressing the issue with the fines and bring in, and I'm not certain what permits are being withheld, but I can throw something provisionally in there stating that if the county is holding up their permits in any fashion, that the county should be moving more quickly to resolve that.
For the health of Buellton residents.
I can work that into the letter. That's
Thank
fine.
you.
Okay.
I'm really kind of surprised they allowed them to open.
Me too.
If this is, that had to have been part of the planning process. I mean, we wouldn't approve something here if they said, oh yeah, we're gonna be on generators for 8 months until we can hook up to some
It's
electricity.
been more than 8 months.
The cannabis.
I'm just using that as an
Yeah.
example, but I don't understand, have you talked to anybody in the county and asked them why they approved this in the first place?
The cannabis permitting process with the county is a long, complicated, not a long, complicated process, although it is that too, but it has a long, complicated history going back to times where it was legal to cultivate, or at least potentially legal to cultivate medical marijuana. And then they adopted the ordinance, and then there was this mad rush to be, for lack of a better term, grandfathered in under the new ordinance. And this was apparently one of those operations that had been operating and so was allowed to continue operating without a permit, although given their size and location, they were ultimately required to get a conditional use permit from the county. That conditional use permit was just recently issued. It was, I think it was heard at the end of last year, maybe the beginning of this year, and then it was brought to the Board of Supervisors on appeal, where it was ultimately, the appeal was denied, the permit was ultimately approved. But they have been in operation well before a permit was issued on this. And honestly, I'm not familiar enough with the history of the permitting process going back far enough to be able to give you a good opinion as to why that is or whether it was even proper to do that. All I can say is the county felt it was appropriate through their hearing process to issue a permit based on where they're at right now.
Shameful.
Shameful. All righty, we've had a motion and a second, Linda?
Let's see, Mayor Sarah.
Aye.
And Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Andresen.
Aye.
Councilmember Lewis. Aye. And Vice Mayor Sanchez.
No.
Oh.
All righty, thank you. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. City Manager's report.
Yes, Madam Mayor. A couple of items for the city manager's report. The first one, you will have noticed maybe some activity going along the side of Highway 246 up near Thumbelina. Caltrans has been out at that location where the eucalyptus trees have been removed, and they have.
Forest.
I'm sorry?
The forest?
The forest. They have actually removed another tree. The sycamore tree has now been removed. And they've been in the process of removing the stumps for the past week or so. That work will continue. I don't have a completion date on that yet, but we'll continue to make sure that we're kept abreast of what's going on from Caltrans, and we're currently working with Caltrans on the fence plan that was discussed with the council several months ago.
You know, and just a comment though, I think we are lucky to have Caltrans have the ability, is it Caltrans?
Yes.
I mean, they could have told us to go pound sand.
Caltrans was very, very cooperative and very receptive to our concerns when we expressed them.
It's looking nice out there, and I'm happy that they're doing it.
I talked to Tim Governance, and he said he talked to somebody.
Huh. I'd like, and I want to publicly thank David Schaefer for he's the Caltrans supervisor that got that equipment, got them over there and got those out of there. I mean, you know, that's a big expense for us that Caltrans took care of.
Can't send two guys out with a chainsaw to
Yeah,
fix
well,
it.
no, they had to get a stump grinder from San Luis Obispo.
And we have been working, have had a very cooperative relationship with Caltrans through this whole process, and we look forward to continuing that throughout not only the plan to put a fence up there, but the ultimate road widening and installation of curb gutter sidewalk and other improvements moving forward. That will be a cooperative effort between Caltrans and the city. So,
Be a big improvement.
okay.
Okay.
Next item. Just a brief update. You'll note that this is the last meeting of the fiscal year, and you have yet to see an agreement on law enforcement services, for law enforcement services between the city and the sheriff's department. That is still in the last moments of being worked out. I think terms have been generally come to, but it's now with the attorneys that are trying to figure out exactly what language needs to be used and how it needs to be presented. The attorneys from the 4 cities are working with the county council to put that together. We anticipate that will come back to the city council here, but probably not until August, given that we only meet once in July. So it is expected that we will have some sort of an interim agreement at the July 8th meeting, and that's still an expectation. Okay, that will carry us through at least that first month of the fiscal year until we get the actual year-long contract before the city council for approval. So we will keep you posted on that. And lastly, I was going to mention Goonies tomorrow night, but the mayor beat me to it again. So I will leave off with that. That's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind. You stealing my thunder. It's okay.
All right.
Would you like to have a milk for the parade with your family?
If the city council would like me to join them, my children would love that.
Absolutely.
So we can bring our families? I was gonna ask.
There's 2 seats, there's 2 seats in the back, and there's 2 in the front and 2 in the back. We just passed one today, so.
My kids are gonna freak out.
I think that's gonna be neat.
Oh, yeah, that's the best
My
part.
youngest
daughter
one-
wants to drive.
Well, the youngest
That's
one
the
that's
best
2
What is it
sees
called?
She goes, can we drive in that?
Mope?
Can we drive in that? And I'm like, oh, God.
I know, yeah, I know what you're talking about. but I-
Okay, so Mr. Murphy.
Madam Mayor, it's now time for the city council to move into closed session per Government Code 54957 for the performance evaluation of the city manager. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you need 5 or 10 minutes? Oh, you brought food. Okay. So we'll take about a 5-minute break. And